So in 2012, a lot of people predicted that the aliens would come basically, at the end of the Mayan calendar and pick people up, maybe, or come and change society or something. And that didn't happen. I wasn't really aware of the ufology, situation that much. I knew some girls that said that they hid in their closet on one day in 2012 because of the predictions. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because we're at a similar junction now. We're at a point where a lot of people are predicting these huge changes. Are they going to happen? Are they not? I think, to me, I'm anticipating some good changes. I think perhaps these changes could have happened in 2012. Some people say that it was supposed to happen in 2012, but some kind of, quote unquote deception pushed the date. Also, the Catholic sort of monarch prophecies say that the Catholic monarch prophecies state that basically Mother Mary is praying to delay Judgment Day so that more people can be saved. So basically Judgment Day should have happened a long time ago, but it just keeps getting delayed. And like if we look at World War II, World War II is so it looks so much like the prophecies of Revelation. Like in Hitler, you have like a picture of what is perhaps the something that could look like the Antichrist. They had a huge propaganda machine. Kind of had to be part of the party to get anywhere. Then again, in U.S., you still have to be a Freemason basically to get anywhere. Really. So maybe the idea that the Judgment Day keeps being delayed, maybe rings true. I think when I heard about these prophecies the first time, like less than a year ago, it really stuck out to me. It was very interesting to me without even hearing what it was about. Just the term, the Great Monarch prophecies, the Catholic monarch prophecies. It was lit up a light bulb in my head, and I just wonder if it's from a past life remembering that sort of thing, or spirits directing me to listen to it and look at what that is. And it makes me think that perhaps Hitler was trying to become the great monarch, to make himself the great monarch through efforts, which, everyone knows who's watched enough fantasy or like, sort of almost like mystical fantasy movies, that trying to force prophecy is exactly what you do to try and control fate, right? Or anyone who knows the myth of Saturn. So I guess what I'm offering here is a little bit of a middle interpretation. I think the disclosure is imminent. I do. I don't want to put a lot of energy into the hope of it. I think hope is actually very negative. I think hope is actually destroying people. People die from their hopes way more than their fears and their worries, because hope often allows delay. Oh, something will come and save me tomorrow. Something will come and save me tomorrow. Something will come and save me tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. Or rather, tomorrow comes and the hope isn't fulfilled. And so you're just constantly subjecting yourself to disappointment, whereas fear and worry, at least it hurts the same amount over time, maybe with some, actually by worrying, you can to some extent empathically control things a little bit. But hope I think really steals people's agency. I'm not saying it's entirely bad to hope, But I think that hope, setting your hopes on aliens, I think, is actually detracting from what aliens coming here would actually do and mean. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. Like I said, I very much hope disclosure will happen. I've been saying for a while that, within the next 10 years, and I figured it would be well within 10 years, but, things could change. There's things I projected to happen, and, things change. If a prophet makes a prophecy, something can change in the night, and the prophecy doesn't come true. I think it says something about that in the Bible, even. I'd have to take a look, but I've seen in my own life that there's things, I saw the energy of it, and I've seen things and predicted things to be how they are enough times that I'm quite confident in my ability to more or less see the future. But especially trying to control the future, you're just putting more chaotic elements out into the nature that will then change the outcome. So by trying to control the outcome, you're actually just, the more you try and control the outcome, the more variables you're introducing. So, you know, but we're in such a time where there's so many variables anyways, where it's very hard to say. And I think it's deeper than that. I think there's some spiritual warfare going on a very high level, where it's like, I can see a window to one reality, and I've sensed this. I can see a window to one reality, and in the night it closes, and it's something different. So I don't put into it too much, and I think a lot of psychics are sufficiently, understanding that the the situation's chaotic, and it's just practically unscrutable. Um, then that being said, I have made some projections that appear to have come true, or are in the process of coming true, and I'm somewhat proud of that. But like, most of that's based on like things I learned about air superiority, or things of that nature. um, and basically using remote viewing to see what's going on behind closed doors in a few situations. But I've only done that a few times, and I stopped doing it because it's just it's not telling me something that is really something I care about, or is very actionable for me. Like, I just, and there's so many, like, the thing is, the more I learn, the more things become my responsibility. So if I just don't look, it's not my responsibility, kind of thing. That's sort of how I feel about it. And there's just how can I know when I've seen enough to have enough context? So that's one thing. I've only become so confident in my remote viewing in the past. Like, I got lazy. I'm not doing it so fluidly anymore. You know what I mean? So yeah. But I wanted to bring up the Emperor. So, this, in the original deck, you'll see that the Emperor has armor, and I would say this is practically like somewhat armored Chitin armor. And the point here is that the Emperor is prepared for peace, and he's also prepared for war at a moment's notice. So I think this is what we have to think about when it comes to, end times, alien disclosure, the return of Christ. The Lord will return, like a thief in the night. You don't know when it's going to happen. No one knows the day or the hour. And I think we this energy of the Emperor is something we need right now. We need to embrace this preparedness, and it doesn't, if it happens today or in a century, to fortify ourselves to be the greatest sort of version of ourselves they can stand the trials of time. They can stand up to, just all of these forces in the world trying to erode our soul. And I think if you can secure your soul and have awareness, if you can steel yourself, if you can fortify yourself, if you can, be the emperor for yourself. And one interesting thing about the emperor is he's the kings of the four suits combined. Maybe a little bit of a bonus interpretation on that, just coming to mind now. This maybe implies that he has the four elements balanced in his being, which is a really good thing. And perhaps just to recommend the LBRP, because the LBRP makes you the master of your own space, of your own mind. By blocking out alien influences, you become the master of your mind circle, sort of your tantric mind circle, practically. So I would highly recommend that sort of thing. But is it really? Are we being the emperor if we're sitting around, hoping and worrying and, feeling like flotsam in the river of life? I mean, if it's true that certain alien beings are feeding off of our negativity, then logically the choice we should make is what we should try and fortify ourselves against negativity and starve such beings. We should, fortify our minds against such things. I've gotten a lot of good out of dream work and astral projection. I highly recommend it. I think that doing this kind of work actually can almost hasten the work of God, because it even says in Revelation, was it in Revelation or in one of the Gospels? Anyways, in one of the apocalyptic, in one of the sayings of apocalyptic prophecy, it said that Jesus, our God, prolonged the time for the sake of the elect. So already in the text of the Bible, of the New Testament, there's some nod given to God is protracting the time, and I believe that we can affect God's will. Abraham, he spoke to God to spare Lot from Sodom and Gomorrah, to wait. I think there's some other situations where Abraham actually swayed God's judgment. Because God listens to his devotees, to those that follow him. And actually, I don't exactly believe in God in that sense. I think that's a really kind of nice poetic way. It's simple. I think though that if for one who is virtuous, for one who sort of tends the garden of their mind, who is faithful in their actions, in the sense that they're just sort of almost in an existential sense, they're honest. They're honest with their existence. I think that's so powerful. And that's a little bit me fusing it with sort of Dharma and the East. Like, for example, even the demons follow Dharma, although they do some wicked acts. They do so out of their particular Dharma. I think some fusion there. I think the Bible is not so much in disagreement with a lot of these other traditions as people might, perhaps many more mainstream Christian authorities would sort of suggest. I see everything as being a little more wobbly and gray. There's a lot of different precedent and such. So yeah, fortify yourself. And if you fortify yourself, I think we can hasten Judgment Day, and perhaps insulate ourselves from it at a level of consciousness, even if it's to take on sort of this pure joy that comes from from being in the divine energy. And that within itself can insulate one's consciousness so much. It's a world of difference when, you know, the external world is trying to destroy you, but you have something inside that's keeping you going, versus when everything's fine in the external world, but your inner world is in turmoil. You're not following the things that you need to do, that you know you need to do. You're not following your inspiration, your divine guidance, that which is divine within yourself. You know, these are the things that are going to move people ahead. And personally, I think that Revelation, or especially to speak of the words of Jesus Christ, when he says that, you know, the wheat will be separated from the chaff, and the chaff will be thrown in the fire. I interpret this to mean that many souls will be snuffed out; they'll be destroyed. Many souls will be all of the array of souls will be examined here in the world. I would say some of us are angels, and you know, we've done our work to some degree of effectiveness and sort of faithfulness, and that'll be, you know, accounted for in a sort of a different category. But the most of the people they'll be held accountable in the sense that, you know, really, will they be wheat or will they be chaff? And the chaff, their souls will be destroyed if they don't measure up to some standard. Now, what is this standard? I'm not exactly sure. I don't believe it's a binary morality. I think it's I think it's a bit more complex than that. I think it's a little bit more, you know, maybe related to self-actualization or something of that nature. You know, but I think this turn is coming, and yeah, stay prepared. You know, don't be caught asleep when the Lord comes, as it were, or perhaps when aliens come. That's sort of that's what I'm anticipating. I think we're already in the beast system. I think that we already, you know, need the mark of the beast to buy or sell. And if you don't sell something within yourself to the system, if you don't enslave yourself at an energetic level, you will not buy or sell. So the beast system's already here, in my opinion. So if that's true, then if disclosure happens and aliens come in, I would suppose it's either the system getting stronger or something more or less, and maybe a way we didn't expect of the second coming of Christ. And I think it's more metaphorical. I don't believe it's literally Christ. I believe that basically things are going to get better, and it's a new order, and you know, that's sort of my idea of it. But I could be wrong. You know, this isn't coming from a place of deep inspiration. This is just, you know, logic, and I feel good about the alien intelligences that are drawing near the Earth. But you know, who knows? Maybe I'm one of the villains. You know, I think that's another thing is, you know, when it says in the scriptures, both in the Bible and like in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's some warning of don't judge the spirituality of others. You know, you don't know what someone's spiritual function is. You don't know what their standing of God truly is. And you know, I think maybe as individuals we should act honestly on what is inside of us, and just trust that whatever place we take in this world is, you know, what's meant for us, so long as we follow our divine guidance from within. So stay prepared.